Welcome to episode 4 of Sky Bisons, Cabbages, and Honor. As always, I am your host, Matthew, and here with me is my wonderful co-host, cousin of Wangfire, Aubrey.
Yes, that is all correct. Yes.
She's winking very heavily. You can't tell, but she's winking. Anyway, we're here with episode 4. We're keeping at this. So, no housekeeping things to take care of this week, so why don't we launch right into things? Yeah? Okay? Alright. So, the summary this week will be handled by yours truly. So, episode 4, The Warriors of Kyoshi. The episode begins with basically just kind of re-establishing the status quo. Zuko is looking for the Avatar, but he's really tricky to find, and they think it's because they're actively trying to avoid Zuko, but it turns out Aang is just sightseeing everywhere. We also reaffirm that Sokka is a little bit sexist, has some preconceptions about gender roles. Just a little bit. I wonder if that'll play into the episode. While doing some kind of sightseeing near an island, the gang is all ambushed and captured by a group of young female warriors in very interesting outfits. It turns out this island, by the name of Kyoshi, is the birthplace of Avatar Kyoshi. Whether the island name came first or hers came first, it's not really revealed. Kyoshi is a previous Avatar, and thus Aang is able to win over the people by proving that he is the new Avatar. Unfortunately, this actually leads to Zuko finding out where they are, and he's like, off to Kyoshi Island. On the island itself, the big kind of conflicts of the episode are Sokka kind of being humbled by the warriors of Kyoshi, who he is initially dismissive of because of their gender. But he is humbled, he learns his lesson, he goes back, and he wants to learn from them. And he kind of wins them over, and even starts to get along pretty well with the head warrior, Suki. There's a little tension there. And the other conflict is Aang being very childlike and wanting to show off and everything, and get Katara's attention a little bit, but she's not really interested most of the time, and this causes a little tension between them two, but it is resolved by episode's end. And then, just as everyone's individual plot lines are wrapping up, the Fire Nation attacks. Zuko arrives with a group of rhino cavalry. They fight in the village. Aang fends them off a little bit, then realizes the collateral damage is damaging the village itself. And he and the rest of the gang, after putting out the fires with some crazy sea serpent taming, head off into the sky to continue their journey. Did I miss anything?
It's not a sea serpent, it's an unagi.
It's a serpent that lives in the sea, Aubrey.
Oh, unagi. They gave it a name.
I'm being descriptive.
All right.
Anyway, so, highlights.
I like the introduction of the Kyoshi warriors. I like how not everyone is a bender, and they demonstrate the abilities of non-benders through the Kyoshi warriors. None of them are earthbenders.
No, which is a fairly unusual thing for kind of militant earth-bending people we see later on. Like, all the other military units that we see in throughout the Earth Kingdom later on are all filled with earthbenders. Admittedly, they're the form of military. The Kyoshi warriors seem to be kind of a local tradition.
Mm-hmm. For the little island of Kyoshi.
I'll get into something else with later, but for highlights, I very much like that this is episode 4, and they kind of put to rest one of Sokka's more glaring negative character traits.
His sexism.
Yes, it only really came up in episode 1 and 2, and it was never a major plot point, really. It was just kind of like, oh, come on, Sokka. But this one, it comes to a head. He is face-to-face with women who not only are warriors, but at least start off much better warriors than him. But he learns his lesson, you know. He is humble enough to admit that he was wrong. He apologizes, and he asks to learn. And I think this is a very important thing. I'm glad they didn't stretch it out over like an entire season to make it like that's his big character arc, learning to respect women.
Yeah, that would have been ridiculous.
Yeah. He's more flexible than that. Sokka's a better character than that.
Well, yeah, especially that's what makes him a good warrior, because he's willing to learn. He's like, okay, these girls are better than me, and I'm not a bender, and these girls like kick my ass. I might as well learn from them, which is super.
Yeah. Sokka is open to new ideas on occasion, and I like that.
I do like the scene where Suki, by the way, they didn't mention her name.
Yeah, for some reason Sokka just one point just knows her name.
Yeah.
But again, time, I guess, or maybe there was a cut scene.
Yeah. Well, Suki and Sokka have this nice little moment where he's like, I'm sorry, I treated you like a girl when I should have treated you like a warrior. And then she was like, I'm a girl and a warrior, which I like because she is able to embrace both being a woman and a warrior. That they're not exclusive things.
Though they did, when they repeat that line at the end of the episode, I am a girl too. Like, then just gives him a kiss. I'm like, is that the only way you could express your being a girl?
Yeah, well, I guess that was the best way to do it at the moment.
And I did note that near the last kind of time you see them training together, they share a look for a minute. Like, it lingers. I'm like, ooh. There's a little smolder going on here.
They are 16-year-olds. This is to happen.
Yes. Yeah. Fit, physical, active 16-year-olds, yes. Actually, we don't really know how old Suki is, do we?
She's around their age.
All right. Any other highlights?
My two favorite memorable gags. One is the rabbit fanboy. Oh god. The one who just foams at the mouth while he's flailing his arms at the sight of Aang doing something cool.
Yes, a timeless GIF was created in this episode. That was very nice to see him. And
then the guy painting Aang with his growing fans, he's like, oh, there's another one now. And then he lifts up the painting, and it's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, that was cute.
Yeah, his little muttering dialogue was pretty great. One thing this is actually something that really got to me, because it's always nice to see sort of an arc for a character in a single episode, and I myself went through a bit of an arc in this episode. I started kind of annoyed with Aang because, admittedly, it's early in the series, but I really thought, he's really not focused on what's important right now. He's doing all this sightseeing, apparently. He is, we have to stop and have all this fun and stuff, and I want to stay in the village. They really like me, and they're treating me great, and I'm having fun with all these fangirls. And I'm thinking, Aang, the entire world is apparently counting on you. Shouldn't you be a little bit more focused? But by the end of the episode, Aang takes a look at what's happening because he came to this village with the Fire Nation attacking and the villagers being burned and everything. And he realizes, my actions, my very presence has consequences on the world around me. And I like that. Aang will continue, I'm sure, to be a little bit childlike in the way, but I think he will be a little more focused at times and aware of, the larger scale or the scope of what's going on, especially with this journey.
Yeah, I think that was the point of the arc, because he needs to realize that his mere existence is going to attract danger.
It's a catalyst.
Mm-hmm. Which is unfortunate, especially Zuko. Avatar Aang is here, Zuko will follow with fire.
Yes. Did they ever bring those rhinos out again? I completely forgot that they had rhinos in this episode. Looking back, and then they had them, and I'm like, did they ever show up again? Were they in the hold of the ship this entire time?
Yeah, do they just have rhinos there?
Or did they they pick them up since last episode? Zuko's like, I need a rhino. Zuko, we don't have room for rhinos. I want a rhino. Oh, fine, Zuko.
I don't know.
I know it's not important, but.
Yeah, but when you think about it, it's if they have rhinos, that means they have to feed the rhinos.
Oh, I'm sure they have lots of fire grass.
Fire grass.
I don't know. We know there are fire flakes later.
That sounds like drugs. Fire grass.
Yeah.
Oh, there was this nice scene I really liked when they were playing telephone, and the little girl was like, "Hey, the Avatar is on Kyoshi Island," and then they like kept passing on to different people, and as they were doing that, the visuals changed. Like everyone, it started out with like Earth Kingdom people wearing green, and then it turned into like this dull red color, and then eventually it reached Zuko, and I was like, that's visually pleasing to look at.
I wish I kind of want to go back and watch that now, because I'm like, are we getting a glimpse of like Fire Nation occupied Earth Kingdom? Like, where's the connection point? Where would someone from the Earth Kingdom have talked to someone associated with the Fire Nation, or is it just someone from the Earth Nation who's really gossipy?
It seems like a gradual thing. It's like, oh yeah, here's like major like Earth Kingdom territory, and then it just sort of eases into maybe Fire Nation occupied territory.
We don't. I think we see it a little bit in a few episodes, but we don't get a lot of real looks at civilians under Fire Nation rule, except I think later season where we go back to Omashu. But I don't know. I'd be interested in a few episodes focused on what it is like and what it has been like, probably for some places for decades now, being under Fire Nation rule.
Yeah, I think they'll go into it later in this season, and especially the third season.
Yeah.
It should be good.
And the second season, too, I think.
Yeah. I noticed one thing. The Kyoshi citizens, they all wear blue.
Yes, I was going to bring this up, too, which is weird to me. Mm-hmm. Like, you never see that in later episodes. People either just have sort of dull brown robes or green, because it's the Earth Nation.
Yeah, it's a good way to sort of differentiate the different citizens and country people.
And I do wonder, Kyoshi is an island, so I'm wondering if it's like supposed to be almost sort of representing coastal influence.
Maybe.
Like, I wonder if there are some people in this village who actually have Water Tribe background.
You know, that's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's possible.
I like the idea of that. It's just sort of like these countries aren't just like four static countries where they just simply keep to themselves. They do blend. They do interact. They probably trade.
A nice thing too about this episode I liked is that it is our first actual contact with the Earth Kingdom.
Oh yeah,
peoples. Not if any official part of the thing like the military or the government or anything, and they don't make any sort of effort to say, like, oh yes, in the Earth Kingdom we do it this way. There's no stereotyping. There's no immediate, like, this is the Earth Kingdom. These are just people. Mm-hmm. Like, they seem, like any people anywhere, but they are part of the Earth Kingdom. I don't know. I like that. It is not drawing a very thick line between our Water Tribe peoples and the Earth Kingdom. I don't know.
I like that too. It makes the world seem more complex than it is, and more fluid.
Well, and certainly less black and white, which is always nice. One other thing, in addition to Overexcited Guy, we finally saw the origins of Aang and his spinning marble trick that we continue to see on well into his adulthood. Like, there's that one picture in Legend of Korra of adult Aang still doing it with a goofy face. Like, oh gosh, damn it, Aang.
You have to remember, he is the last airbender. A lot of people probably have never seen that.
Yeah. Though admit, you think an earthbender could do that pretty easily.
Oh, I'm guessing if it was like a piece of rock.
Yeah, what is the marble? Is it glass, I guess?
Maybe it's metal, and metal bending has not been invented yet.
Yeah. Also, apparently Aang has been training Momo. Momo will now fetch specific things.
I love that. God damn it, Momo.
Yeah. Additional thoughts other than just highlights.
Oh, yeah, Aang and Katara's arc, where essentially he was like,
pay attention to me. I'm trying to impress this pretty girl.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because it just shows that Aang is still a kid at heart.
He is, but not too much of a kid that he's not maybe trying to, impress this girl.
Yes. Are we talking about Katara?
Yes.
Yeah, see, I saw where they were going here, and I didn't, feel it. I was like, are they trying to, force a romance because he's like 2 years younger. Well, technically he's 112.
Yeah. I do like I don't remember a great deal about kind of the milestones of their relationship, but I was a little taken aback at the first just how utterly uninterested Katara is to begin with here. Like, in a lot of shows, almost right off the bat, there's sort of this back and forth, but neither of them want to show, how much they're interested in. But no, Katara is just like, oh yeah, that's nice thing. I'm working here, doing some actual work while you're goofing around. She is just so very mature in this episode for most of it, until she gets a little passive aggressive.
Yeah, that was uncool, but that's kind of Katara.
Yeah, and she has she has a temper, buried underneath all this calm, collected maturity. But if you keep scratching, you'll get to it eventually, and then she kind of gets snippy. And I'm not saying that's not undeserved. I'm just saying, it's there.
Another thing I like, and it's a very small thing, Katara demonstrates it in the first episode, and Zuko demonstrates it here when he gets upset at the fact that he can't find the Avatar, and when he gets angry, the flames in front of him on the candles go up, which seems to me, well, they're obviously demonstrating that emotions and bending are tied together.
Oh yeah.
Which explains the different skill levels of different people.
Well, especially just too with firebenders, when you get excited, your breathing probably, gets more erratic or more spirited. And we know a lot of firebending is based on breathing. One thing I did notice, actually, just about that exact scene, Zuko seems almost to be meditating in front of, a dragon shrine. He's got the candles, but then there's this elaborate kind of dragon head mounted thing on the wall.
It kind of looked like a mask, just a little bit.
Yeah, a very big one. Yeah. Also, another funny thing, in preparing for this episode, I started getting in my head, I think I was confusing this episode in my head with a later episode where Aang is put on trial for something Kyoshi does.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Where there's Avatar Day, where it's Avatar Day. Oh, they're burning him in effigy. What is going on?
Oh, gosh.
But that's a later episode. I got confused.
I like the introduction of Kyoshi. They're expanding on the Avatar line, I guess. Last episode was Roku, sort of. They name dropped him.
Roku. They pointed out Kyoshi in the last episode, but we never got her name.
Yeah, and then we have Kyoshi, which I guess is the first Avatar that they expand on.
Yeah.
Besides Aang, of course.
Though to be fair, they don't give her a lot of characterization. They just say, "Oh, she was born on this island, and I think they mentioned that she kind of founded the Kyoshi Warriors, or they're named in her honor." And she looks very serious in her statue.
Too serious.
Yeah.
Kyoshi will not take any shit from you.
Kyoshi, who has an unfortunate legacy in the Earth Kingdom, we learn. One, some people have a incorrect assumption about her, like I was talking about that in a later episode, and the fact that apparently she founded the Dai Li.
What? Oh.
Because they were supposed to protect the culture of the Earth Kingdom, which later gets kind of perverted into something more sinister.
Oh, that is unfortunate. Yeah. But it just goes to show that moral choices that people make in this world and in the world of Avatar are complex.
And just while on the subject of Kyoshi, we learn in some of the most recent Legend of Korra stuff, Kyoshi was bisexual.
Neat.
Yeah. Nice little bit of detail. I don't know. I would love to see I think they're doing a book about Kyoshi's life.
Yes, I heard.
Which I think would be very interesting. She always seemed very serious. Also voiced by Jennifer Hale, I think. Commander Shepard, who does other voices in the show too. But anyway, getting off track. But on the subject also, though, of Kyoshi Warriors, Sokka looked very pretty in his Kyoshi Warrior makeup and outfit.
It was very lovely. I do like that scene where he's like all proud of wearing it, and then Aang comes along and he's like, "Hey, Sokka, nice dress," and then he feels dejected.
Yeah, he just deflates, but he gets over that pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Sokka is flexible and adaptable. It's one of his good character traits.
That's what I love about him.
Yeah.
Does he get a little bit is he still sort of sexist throughout the entire, like...
I don't know about that. I think maybe sometimes he just kind of does a brother-sister thing with Katara. I don't think his sexism ever comes up again. He might just have, like, things where he just tries to maybe act overly manly.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, Sokka has a lot of expectations in his mind about himself and what he is supposed to be like.
So I'm guessing this arc just sort of, like, ends that.
Yes, and I'm glad, as mentioned earlier, I'm glad they ended this pretty quickly. Didn't even make it to half the season.
I like the elephant koi because it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, we're taking two animals and putting it together. Yay!
There's, I'm probably going to get this bad, but there's a very interesting myth I just heard about koi in Japanese culture. There's a legend about koi that manage to swim up a waterfall because when they reach the top, they get to turn into a dragon. Which is where, Magikarp and Gyarados came from. Oh!
I never knew that!
There's probably a lot more to that myth, but it was interesting. I'm wondering about, like, is there supposed to be a symbolic link between the koi and anything in this episode? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting about Magikarp turning into Gyarados, because it's like, well, it's kind of this weak little fish, and now it's this great dragon.
But through great effort, it can become a dragon.
I think that's just sort of a metaphor for life in general.
It can be, yeah. You put in the effort, you get your rewards. Equivalent exchange.
Another reference, which I understood.
Yeah, nerdy anime references.
Ooh, I learned something interesting.
Oh, yes? What's that?
The Kyoshi Warriors, they participate in an art where they use fans. And it's actually based off of a Japanese martial arts called Tessenjutsu, which I find kind of interesting, which goes to show that the Avatar creators know their shit.
Yes.
They do their homework.
Yes. I especially liked they mentioned that the style is sort of based around the use of your opponent's movement to, use against them, which I like because I'm a student of Aikido, and that's one of the big principles of Aikido. Not using your own strength, but using your opponent's momentum to unbalance them and everything.
I like that.
Yeah.
I gotta go with you to Aikido one day.
Yeah. It can be a very elegant style. Not a lot of brute strengthening stuff, but anyway. Any further thoughts?
Not really. I feel like this was a solid filler episode. Would you argue it was a filler episode?
Yeah. I'm going to take a bit of exception to that term, Aubrey.
Oh.
Because, I don't know, I have a very specific definition of what filler episode is supposed to be. Because this does, in a way, advance the plot.
All right.
Because characterization is plot. We have got character development in this episode. A little bit for Aang, a big point for Sokka, not that it's that important to the story. Filler, in most cases, is applied to episodes of an anime, for instance, where the anime is getting dangerously close to catching up with the manga and running out of material.
All right.
So they just create an episode that has nothing to do with the plot and was made exclusively just to give the manga more time to get ahead. But you could have an entirely different meaning for filler, and that's okay.
Okay, all right. It is a good episode in general.
Yes, I liked it. How many elephant koi out of 5 would you give it?
I'm going to say 4. 4 elephant koi.
I would also give it 4. We're giving 4, a lot of 4s. I'll be interested to see what is required for us to actually give lower than 4.
Oh, I have an idea.
The Great Divide?
Yes.
We'll see.
Soon.
Oh dear. Anyway, any closing thoughts on episode 4?
Not really. I just really like this episode. I like Kyoshi. And I'm glad that they are reintroduced later on. Spoilers. Yeah,
quite a while later, I think.
They're a good addition to the Avatar world.
I think so. One other thing I just wanted to mention, last thing. I think this might be the only time we see snow in the Earth Kingdom.
Really?
I can't think of any other times we see snow. I mean, usually it's a pretty temperate zone.
You also have to remember that summer is coming.
Oh, yes, the summer.
Yeah.
Though we haven't gotten that particular kind of plot point yet about the time limit.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, so I think that wraps it up for episode 4. So that was episode 4 of the show and episode 4 of our podcast. So I think things are going well. We're sort of sticking to our new structure.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I think this is a solid structure. Hope you guys enjoy.
Yes, indeed. So we'll see you next time on Sky Bisons, Cabbages, and Honor. Sing us out, Aubrey.
Sky Bisons, Cabbages, and Honor. The end.
Very nice.